I've been doing something really weird this Lent. No surprise there. I learned it from one of my many spiritual directors. This one happens to be a golden retriever. When I go to pray this Lent, I cock my head to the side and raise my chin a tad. When I see a golden retriever do it, it melts my heart. I call his name and he stops everything and turns his head towards me and listens. Listens for the next word that tells him something really important to him, like food. But maybe even sometimes something essential to him. He knows it'll be the next word he hears. He is listening. So that's how I begin to pray every morning and every night during Lent. I begin with just that posture, my head tilted a little bit to the side, my chin up a tad, in a posture of listening. The Transfiguration story you just heard, when Jesus went up on a mountain, perhaps to get away from it all, but strangely there he found himself in what we call a mystical experience. An experience so real, so mysterious, so deeper than words, that you can only use symbols to explain it. Symbols like a cloud that always is a sign of the mystery in Scripture. A voice, always a sign that the Creator has something needing to be said. And a witness, witnesses to the moment in somebody's life that was this mystical experience. And the focus is on Jesus. Jesus the model. Jesus who taught me a way of life, and the one who has best led me to God, best led me into the mystery, which is God. What Jesus was told by the voice is all important and essential. The voice, which came from the cloud of mystery, spoke these words: "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Listen to him. My friends, listening is the key to the spiritual life. It has become my practice, my spiritual practice this Lent. As we all know, we live in an age of constant chatter, political chatter, news chatter, family chatter, internal and private chatter going on in our heads, food chatter, anxiety chatter, despair chatter, church chatter, and the chatter goes on and on and on. But when God said, listen to him, listen to Jesus, it is as if each one of us was extended a personal invitation to cease the obnoxious chatter of our lives and learn to focus on the one voice that can actually help the world situation and help us to a very deep, significant, and personal way. Learning how to listen deeply, listening even to the pain buried underneath people's words. Deeply, in a way that marks and distinguishes deep people from shallow people, angry people from people of peace, and people marked by contentment and purpose, rather than following fads, social influencers, and the latest and greatest chatterboxes of our day. People who listen when we talk with them, people who listen are a shining for us. It's almost like they're transfigured in front of us, that they would care enough about us, that they would see something in us, that they would want to hear and understand. It almost blows us away. They're shining. They stand out from the crowd. In our marriages, in our old friendships, we think we have it down, this listening thing. And we come to find out that we are better listeners professionally and socially than we are maritally. We need to work on learning how to really listen to each other, our kids too, at whatever age they happen to be. This kind of learning, when it comes to our spiritual lives, we need to learn to listen better to avoid so much misunderstanding, hurt, and abuse, especially the abuse of power. Father Henry Nouwen, a lot of us grew up with spiritually, writes that when it comes to listening, it is important to understand the meaning of the word listening. He writes that the opposite of listening is deafness. And he also writes that in Latin, the root meaning of deafness is absurdity. The root meaning of deafness is absurdity. When we don't listen, everything seems absurd. I believe this one word, absurdity, is the single best descriptor of our times. This is an age of absurdity. There is political, social, religious, relational, economic absurdity going on all over the world. And I'm suggesting to you this morning that the reason is this. We're not listening. We're not listening to him, and we're not listening to each other anymore. When I watch the news, I see absurdity. Don't you? When nothing seems to make sense, you know you're living in an age of absurdity and deafness. Absolutely nothing makes sense. Absolutely nothing makes sense when we do not listen. You and I, we need to learn how to really listen to the hidden issues we're struggling with, and talk to each other from that place. We will never resolve the tension in our relationships until we finally learn to listen to each other more deeply. We will never get to the hidden issues that we really need to be talking about, and until we learn to listen. A marriage where people stop listening to each other because they assume maybe too much or whatever, the marriage itself becomes absurd. And my friends, the same is true of our spiritual lives. Until we learn to listen deeply to God, we will spin the wheels of our lives and rarely make any progress at all. To listen is to love. As I said, it's a remarkable experience to be truly listened to have someone see us and hear us, to have someone focus on us and on our story and not keep interrupting us with their own parallel stories to give input or advice or perspective or to teach us something, to just listen. To listen is to love. It's to offer the gift of our undivided attention. To listen is to lay aside our own agendas for the sake of truly experiencing the other person's essence, their soul, their whole self being seen and heard, accepted and loved. It is an intimate experience of the soul that we all most crave, most want, and most need. When the voice says, "Listen to Jesus," and I oftentimes hear my dad saying this to Gary in this tone of voice, "Listen, Gary, listen to your mother." I wonder if that's the tone of God's voice, that voice, on that mountaintop. Listen, Gary, because we're being offered a key, the key that unlocks and opens doors long shut in our lives. When we learn to listen, we hear truths about ourselves, like Jesus did. When we listen, we hear perspective. When we listen, we gain clarity. Without listening, life is absurd. This is the message we most need in our lives, that the voice is always calling out for us, calling out to us, whether it's in nature or in reality itself, the circumstances of our day, if we're listening to what's happening all around us, even in the quiet moments, and from the person we've been sleeping next to for 40 years, if we just start listening again and not assume we understand too quickly. When we listen like this, we're holding each person in our sight with dignity, honor, and respect. In another place in our scripture, the voice says this: be quick to hear, slow to speak. Be quick to hear, slow to speak. We trust that in listening, we will find our way as a people, as a family, personally. So you see, the spiritual life is a life of listening, a life of always wanting to hear something from beyond, and I say beyond with a capital B, something from beyond ourselves, to hear from someone, and I say someone with a capital S, to hear from someone what really matters, who really has something significant and essential to say to us. There's a priest who tends to begin most conversations with somebody, socially or in any way, by saying something like, a question something like, Gary, what can I hear from you today? I can't tell you what it's like to meet somebody who starts a conversation like that. Gary, what can I hear from you today? He's all ears. And it makes me go deep to look for something a little more essential, a little new to me, maybe even to say about myself to myself. Gary, what can I hear from you today? It gives me pause. And it gets me to somehow filter out the absurdities and find that inner flow of the river of my soul to say something important to him or to myself even, something vital, something needed. And so when I go to pray these Lenten days, I turn my head a little bit to the side and I lift my chin a tad, like my spiritual director does. I really do that because it helps me to put my body into my praying. I do that at the beginning of my prayer in the morning and at night. And I say to myself, or out loud even, Jesus, what can I hear from you today? Jesus, what can I hear from you today? And listen.